how do you think this community, the Chinese community, of course, because you said in last year we were the biggest StarCitizen in Chongqing, the community organized the event, and now in this year again in Shanghai we did like 7-8 times bigger event, just in 1 year.
I mean, we're incredibly excited. That's one of the reasons why so many people came out, Aaron and Todd and John Crew and Tyler and Elliot. I think we have a new community manager for China too as well, I believe. I think they're also there. I haven't met yet, but that's wonderful. Yeah, so we're really excited about China and also Asia in general. So we're starting to try to see how we can do more and help you guys play the game and spread the word.
Chris&Sandi Roberts had an interview remotely with the Bar Citizen that took place in Shanghai, China, an official event for StarCitizen. The Cloud Imperium Games sent staff to, also in person. And we're going to go into that a little bit more in a bit. But I wanted to note the sheer scale of this Bar Citizen is truly incredible. It reminds me a lot of the Las Vegas event, which is almost like a mini CitizenCon. And this is certainly something impressive. So props to the team who put this together. You truly put an incredible work together. Remember that most of the time, these type of events are done by volunteers for the most part, and some sort of agreements are also made. But these type of events tend to be a kind of a loss leader. There's not really a lot of money made at them, if anything. It's more about the passion of the fans. I wanted to note that this is a relatively new market for CIG to try to open up, in the sense of they are looking to open up multiple markets across the Asian continent. And they are, in this case, looking very hard at the mainland China market. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, where I think that is. And I think that any type of event like this shows that there is pent-up demand, shows that there is an audience and a place that maybe you wouldn't expect. And certainly not a group that's very large in our current community, but clearly is growing very quickly. Now, later on, you're going to hear a little bit more from Chris Roberts, who notes that these type of events and his goal kind of align, where he wants people from all over the world to enjoy the game, basically fans of sci-fi, and that a sci-fi verse game can be shared across everyone. One of the things here, aside from this B-roll showing really neat plushies and models that I wish I could get my hands on myself, that are licensed by CIG through this fan organization that set this group, this volunteer group that apparently that set this up, and some sort of connection with a Chinese company, I think, to make it all work. I don't know. But that was the vague answers I saw in the Q&As, and also in the limited text write-ups that I could find and get translated. It seems like that, once again, it's a grassroots effort. There's a lot of passion behind it. It is growing, but it is a small, on the face of things, group. And most importantly, the Chinese market is very large, though, if it can be cultivated. But there are side effects to that, and I thought this video would be a good journalistic discussion about that, some ethical discussion, dare I say it. And the biggest message here is learning from previous games. A game I come from, that I spent over a decade in, EVE Online, had to have special servers for the Chinese market because of the requirements of mainland China for connectivity reasons. And basically CCP games, the people who make the EVE Online game, and up until recently were independent, they basically were not able to come to a reasonable agreement on multiple flow concerns and specific topics I'm not going to go into, to make the servers kind of mesh together. So the Chinese had their own shard, and it was actually something that was on the down low for years. When we talk about the North American market and the Euro market and such, that we were really shocked by. And this is a game that had heavy amounts of Eastern European countries involved. We had countries from Japan and Korea and South Korea. So it was not unheard of, but it's just plain and simple. There were certain requirements that seemed to be being met by CIG.
Maybe next year we should plan a bit more, and maybe, like you said, we can come up with some prizes for the company. I know that we're doing a lot of work, for instance, on Arena Commander, so there'll be an update in the next patch, but we've got much more stuff that's coming for that, so that would also be quite fun stuff to do in the next year one.
This is something you'll see with these clips, that basically they're very careful about what he's talking about. In particular, Chris Roberts is very careful. He mentions that Jarrett would be upset with him if he mentions any more, but he notes the heavy emphasis on Arena Commander, and he also talks about the 4.0 focus on...
We may be doing a tour towards the end of next year, and there would definitely be a stop in China. So it would be sometime, I would guess, after October 10th. Would be when we're thinking. I don't want to spoil what the tour will be about.
My speculation here that by October 10 of next year, not this October, but next October, Squadron 42 will be deep in release and probably out to the public by that point. Currently, Squadron 42 is the main priority.
I haven't been to mainland China yet, so I'm actually really looking forward to going to mainland China. I want to visit quite a few places like Shanghai and Beijing. I've been to Hong Kong, which I liked when I was back there. It was actually quite a long time ago.
You haven't been to Shanghai?
No, I've never been to mainland China, so I'm actually looking forward to the opportunity to come to mainland China and explore. It's like a huge and pretty beautiful country. So
Shanghai is very cool. It's very modern. They got lots of hip people there. Clearly, look at all these cool people. It'd be fun. I don't know what we're going to do, but it'd be a lot of fun, I think. Dim sum. We love dim sum. I love dim sum. Shanghai has great food.
As is indicated, the commitment will not just be pillars next year, but will actually be Chris&Sandi likely going to this large-scale Bar Citizen. Also, there's another one in Hong Kong.
Questions of what's in it till CitizenCon, because at CitizenCon it's all very much focused on cool things that will be about 4.0, but definitely we'll have the first version of server meshing, and it will allow us to expand into other systems, and we'll have other things too, but I think Tyler, maybe Jared behind here, will shoot me if I say too much.
As was noted, 4.0 CitizenCon Pyro push.
Confirm to you that we are localizing Squadron 42 into Chinese, including it being fully dubbed. It'll be both dubbed and subtitled in Chinese. And I think we may also, do both. I think we're definitely doing simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese for subtitles. And so we're planning that on Squadron and then on StarCitizen, I think in the sort of short term to near term, although Elliot and Tyler will probably have, or Aaron may have a bit more information, we would have, we're going to try to get the ability for the community-led translations to work again, to work around easy anti-cheat. And then longer term, we have the same goal to have everything translated, so, and also on our website for you guys. But that's a bit longer term project, because obviously StarCitizen is so big, and also with all the website stuff, it just makes it a bit more complicated. But our plan is to have full localization in Chinese on both Squadron 42 and StarCitizen.
Any modern show, movie, game, if you watch to the end, look at the credits, you'll see tons of dubbing and localization for subtitles and such, especially Netflix or Amazon if you watch the end of their shows. That's not the surprise here. The surprise to me is the physical commitment to this market.
So I can just say yes. I'll tell you yes. I think we're actually in the process of enabling that right now with our payment provider, and we're looking at doing more, having even wider payment methods for the rest of Asia. But absolutely, Alipay, and
WeChat Pay.
WeChat Pay, I think are being turned on in, I don't know, maybe the next few weeks. Elliot actually was there, would probably know, but...
It's not the next few weeks.
Okay, next month. Yeah, doing it.
Don't get too tight on the timeline.
Okay.
It's a prime priority.
Ellie Pay is definitely coming, but I don't know about the next few weeks. You might be overselling that.
Once again, a payment method. Any supported infrastructure you're going to put in place for a region is important. And as we've talked about a little bit now, China has very specific rules when it comes to financing. So it makes sense that they have their own finance tools in place. It is interesting to note that you have two different companies that are going to have to work through to figure out which one works better, or they're going to have both.
And what about Squadron? Do people prefer to play that on PC or console?
Probing question like that is usually a very basic market research and get people talking. They already know the answer is going to be PC. The crowd does note that, and it's very difficult for me to include all of that, the translation. But the point is they are focused on PC still. I highly recommend not to take this out of context. Sandy does not mean that they're going to put it on console.
I would love to come down. I don't want to speak for him, but I would love to come down.
I'd love to come. I mean, it's all really mostly to do with the schedule, because I'm very, very busy on Squadron right now here in Manchester. So I'm not even in Los Angeles, where Sandy and I live. We're over here in Manchester working really hard. No, it's fantastic. I mean, you know, one of the things with StarCitizen is sort of meant to be for everybody, all around the world, all around the universe. Countries and nationalities aren't really important. It's just everybody that loves science fiction, exploring, adventuring, meeting other people, having fun together, living in this future universe where anything's possible. So I'm always like in awe and excited when I go to places or see all around the world, how many people love what we're doing, even though it's not fully completed or finished yet, but we're building this, I think, is going to be this amazing playground and universe to explore and have fun and create your own stories. And so I love to go around and meet everybody that's playing as sort of enraptured and interested as I am in this other universe. So I really thank all of you for supporting and playing.
For those unaware, there is a Los Angeles studio, which a lot of the key leadership of StarCitizen's teams that make up CIG are based out of. Squadron 42's kind of headquarters is actually in England at their studio there in the Manchester office. Now, what must be noted is Chris and Sandy are stating that they have made that sacrifice where they've gone all the way across to another country just to try to help finish Squadron 42 over the goal line. And this indicates that back in late June, as of June 23rd, they still were over in Manchester getting things done. It is highly likely, though, that they moved back towards LA to free focus on CitizenCon as we get closer and closer, or at the very least that will happen very soon. Just wanted to note that for those who are interested and maybe aren't familiar with the sacrifices CIG makes for the work they do.
Yeah. Okay. I know a lot of people always have competition about another game that's sort of in the same genre, but I feel that I love science fiction games, and so I'm going like Starfield comes out, even though there's quite a few things that are fairly similar to what we've been doing in StarCitizen, look quite similar. I'll still be playing it. I love the Bethesda games. I like Skyrim or Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. So I think Todd Howard's a very talented game designer. So I'll be really interested to play it. And my opinion is that I think it's it's a game that potentially will get more people interested in playing space games. When I first launched Star Citizen, everyone told me that no one's interested in space games, it's dead. Space games out here, no one wants to play PC games. And I was like, I don't believe that because I love these things, and I know a lot of other people love these things, and I used to love them when I made the Wing Commanders back in Privateer and Freelancer back in the 90s. And so for me, I think ultimately for Star Citizen, Starfield will be pretty good because there'll be some people that don't know about Star Citizen that will play something like Starfield because it's getting this huge push from Microsoft, and they'll play it like, oh, I like this game, but you know what? I want to play with other people. I want to be able to seamlessly land on a planet and fly anywhere because you won't be able to do that in Starfield. I want to meet my friends or meet other players. I want to meet thousands of other players and build a life in a persistent universe with real people as well as AI.
Don't say too much in one go because you have to translate. You've got to remember all that.
I think ultimately it will be positive for Star Citizen because Starfield's a single-player game. So after people have played Starfield and they look for something more, Star Citizen will be there.
It's pretty fair to say that Starfield has certainly made a mark on the sci-fi exploration, verse-based kind of sim kind of gameplay. But as is noted, it's a single-player game. I do think that it will give a relative bump to the number of backers that are in the community. And also, I think more importantly, will scratch only slightly an itch that backers that may have been away for years that suddenly want to come back to the community to really take a look at what Star Citizen's coming through with. I think that the lack of information right now, while Starfield is launching, I'm recording this right when Starfield is going from early access into full access for everyone. I think that it was a mistake to not have at least something to get out the door. Right now we have a few gated PTU patches that we're kind of exploring and checking out. I think we're up to wave 2 right now as of recording. But the new content is being dried up for CitizenCon, which unfortunately is in October. It's still a few weeks away. But I think that's not that big of a deal. I think that if there is people that are currently working their way through Starfield, I've put, I don't know, 25 hours into it, and I feel like I'm just starting to really get a handle on it, and it's certainly got some replayability in the game, and I'm excited for it. And I gotta say that it doesn't diminish my excitement for Star Citizen at all either. And it certainly, I think Star Citizen hits deeper. Being able to play with your friends, being able to work with your workmates is much more important to me, especially in the PU. Persistent universe is everything to me. Arena Commander, if it gets people back into the PU more, gets more people keeping their game up to date and actually playing, that's great. But to me, that's a short-term Band-Aid fix for what's more important. What's more important is the PU, and it always has been for me. And that's why I'm really hoping when Squadron is finally out the doors soon, that there is a new balance in the development cycle. I understand that many of the developers will still be on Squadron 42, whatever the new part 2 or chapter 2 or whatever it ends up being. But my hope is that there would be a 50-50 in development. For those unaware, a significant portion of past CIG's resources of their 1,100 plus staff are in lockstep towards Squadron 42, Squadron 42, Squadron 42 year after year. There is a very small skeleton crew of amazing folks who work on all the content you see in the PU. And even the stuff that they get from Squadron 42 has to be changed to fit into the PU, has to be put online. And amazing server teams and rendering teams, amazing folks like Sylvan, for example, need to make Cloud's part and Things Wonder and do multiple roles to get things done. And honestly, I still want them to do what they do every day best. But I'd love to see a lot more folks supporting every single one of those fine folks. The men and women that are running these teams are fantastic, and I really hope that they get more reinforcements. Turbulent recently got a couple new hires, but it's not as much as they really could use, especially when we look at the rest of CIG and we see 1,100 staff. But that's my opinion. I do obviously have a bias. I've stated that from the beginning that I'm a huge fan of the PU. I'm a huge fan of multiplayer, and literally, Chris's argument here of it will reinforce Star Citizen and get people excited about it, being able to play with their friends, is only possible really in the PU and technically the Arena Commander modes and Star Marine modes that are coming out very soon, if all the rumors are to be believed and if we are still on track with what we're seeing from the development cycle reports, which once again have dried up because of CitizenCon lately. But we'll see. Time will tell. That'll do it for me. I wanted to thank you for sticking around on this experimental journalistic take on this. I wanted to thank the folks who provided content on these interviews that are important for the entire community to see. I try to cover as much of this as possible, and I hope that I offered as neutral a position as possible and stated my biases wherever I had them. I hope that was the case. I can answer any questions below. I can answer questions on Discord. You can always DM me, of course, if you're shy. As always, different opinions and perspectives are welcome. Discussion is always a good thing. The more we keep things behind different little groups and organizations split up on information, I think the worse off it is for the community, especially in this development time, where now is the time to really put forward some good ideas, some good thoughts, get testing done, and kind of share this community and make it as good as a dang verse as we can possibly get.